Would you like to know how an NFT can help you live, work, and travel anywhere in the world? And no, I'm not talking about flipping an NFT for millions and jetting off on a private plane. I'm actually talking about how NFTs can evolve and change to give you more value within your everyday lives. Right now, we're seeing NFTs as either cartoons or profile picture NFTs, which may or may not give you some sort of utility and may or may not benefit you in the real world. So is there going to actually come a point where we get a little bit bored of community wallets, staking and airdrops? And does that ultimately mean that the NFT days are somewhat numbered? Now, actually, from the early days, someone like Gary Vee actually saw the bigger opportunity when it comes to NFTs. So if you look at Vee Friends and the fact that that's kind of an access token to allow you to get access to his VCon conferences, there was definitely something in there that gave you that solid in real life benefit. And he's also brought out an NFT to go into his NFT restaurant, so it's acting like a ticketing access as well. So we need to now ask ourselves, does that kind of model need to be the basis for the future of NFTs? Well, if the answer is yes, then in this video, you're going to learn from an incredible entrepreneur called Lars Williamson, who actually has used the timeshare model to create an NFT that gives you real world access so that you can work, live, and possibly ski thanks to a JPEG. Yep, I'm not kidding. It's fascinating. And you'll wonder, well, where did he get the inspiration from? So when did you first discover the NFT space, and not only discover it, but at what point did you decide that you wanted to actually be actively involved in the NFT space?
I rolled into the NFT space because Gary Vee, one of the front runners of the NFT world, he reached out to the CEO of the animation studio that I'm involved with in the US. And he wanted to actually purchase a small studio to be able to create animations for his project Vee Friends that he launched a few weeks after. And, you know, I was very intrigued by why he was so involved into this NFT space that I did not know anything about at that point. And then I started to kind of look into what he was trying to do with the event access and like the one-on-one meetings and like kind of like very interesting use cases, because I've heard of NFT in the form of art, but I didn't hear about NFT in the form of like an access token almost. We did decided to look into like what are the other use cases that we can come up with. And because I'm like, you could consider myself a digital nomad where I travel with my laptop and I work from places all over the world. And then I started to think, okay, well, what if there is a way to connect both the vacation world with like a crowdfunding of a place? Like that was an intriguing idea to me. And over the summer, I started to brainstorm on it and just speaking in my own circles about it. And then I guess around August is when I started jumping into these Twitter spaces and at the same time posting on Instagram about the concept. And since then, I have been reached out by many people like all the time because it's very intriguing when you combine NFTs with physical assets. So I think that's like kind of how I got into the space and then why I'm still like pushing to as an advocate for kind of the future of this NFT space and like how it can be tied to the real world where we live in. So that's kind of the story for me.
There's always been this kind of conversation that maybe NFTs are a bit of a fad. They're not here to stay. You obviously have invested into a business that will support the future of NFTs. What was the turning point for you to think, actually, there is real longevity in this space?
When I started to realize that it's the technology behind it, that's almost the reason why I think this is there to stay, is because I always said cryptocurrency is definitely a very, like, it creates freedom for people, but it's not easily understood because it's just talking about a currency. Where if you now talk about something that can be visually representing something, now a lot of people can grasp it. And that's where I saw something that was super intriguing, is like I could put up a picture, a video, a 3D file that is going to represent something. And I think that that's what we're doing anyway. When you look at advertising, when you look at e-commerce, we're representing an image and you are buying from that e-commerce page something that does that. But I think what this makes the difference between just a regular e-commerce store and why the .com became so big and this is that it lives forever on the blockchain. It's kind of always for sale. If you want to make a bid on it, you can. Like, so you could own, for example, a house where normally you have to list that house for sale. But now in the future, that might actually be that someone says, I want to make a bid on that house, even if it's not for sale. And now you can consider if that's something that you want to do. So I think that changes kind of the game of what this is.
To your point, mortgages, wills, the way we transact from banking, that is all fundamentally going to change because of the technology that's underpinning this. And it's about people like yourself with what you're doing. And obviously a lot of people who are pulling out their own NFT projects are starting to open up different threads as to how this technology can integrate itself, not just in our daily lives, but also in our digital lives. I know that we are not going to stop existing as human beings, so we can't just live in real life on its own and not have digital world integrated in that. But equally, we can't just solely live in the digital space. So you're bringing both of those together. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
When I was like meeting so many of these digital nomads that are like traveling the world and they go from place to place, I started to see that they were kind of seeking some form of a base where they could be some months of the year, but they could still, let's say, continue to travel. And with COVID happening, a lot of people start to work remote. So they have no true feeling with a particular location. So location independence becomes a bit more normal because like a lot of people don't go back to the office, or they just decide, I don't want to go back to the office because I'm so used to working from home or working remote. So that's kind of where Vaycay Shares came in. It's like I saw an opportunity to be able to tell a story where I myself bought a property and that I can actually crowdfund the whole property in the way of selling vacation weeks. So I am in Bansko, Bulgaria, what is a ski resort place where people go to ski in the wintertime. And I actually love the mountains for the summertime where I go hiking and mountain biking, and it's really great nature. So what I decided to do is, if there is an infrastructure in a particular place where they have like really good Wi-Fi, they have like restaurants, they have like really high quality of living, but the cost of living is very low. It's called geo arbitrage. So what I started to look into is, imagine if people from the Western world or from anywhere in the world can now crowdfund their own property by selling vacation weeks. So they sell, let's say, 15 weeks of the year in the form of vacation, and 37 weeks of the year, they now own an actual property, and they do that maybe twice in 2 locations that make them happy. They now have no living expenses for the rest of their life besides utilities. And that will change a lot of lives. Like I could make an insane impact. But the beauty of what this is, it's so locally targeted. You can target internationally to sell the vacation weeks or to get people to get those properties, but you're actually supporting the local places that are like hidden gems. Like you could see it that way. So I'm now bringing kind of 2 audiences together. One that wants to go on vacation every year and pays upfront, similar to a timeshare where they can actually go every year. And on the other end, people between maybe 25 and 35 that can get mortgages and are sick of renting for €1,000 a month. I am basically the perfect alternative to that, because you now might have like a beach place in Greece and a mountain place in Bulgaria, for example. And now from there, you can have no living expenses. And now that is true freedom, because everything that you make from that moment forward, you can invest into whatever you like to do. That's kind of the concept in a nutshell of like what it does and why I decided to do it.
How do people pay for this? Is there an NFT like entry point, or is this crypto? Like what are the barriers to entry, or what are the general entry points?
So what I did for my own project is I did a reservation form up front where I let people that might be in the crypto space or not in the crypto space, family, friends, people in my close network, reserve weeks first. That was the first thing I did. And I got like 4 or 5 people that reserved a week. And then from there, I did an actual launch and I put it on Polygon, so there's no fees. So I could transfer those NFTs to the people that have already reserved, and people that want to come in, they basically buy that NFT, and I create a web application that actually leads to an Airbnb style place. So if you bought an NFT, that's your login. So I created the NFT as an access token. So you will connect your wallet, select the week of your vacation, and now you're in this like Airbnb style interface where you can see your check-in information, directions to the place, Wi-Fi, smart lock code, NFT agreement, message the host. Like, I just created a gated place where the login, the only way that you can get in is owning the NFT. So if you sell it, someone else has access now.
So am I right in thinking this is NFT Airbnb?
There's overlaps, yes. So the buying the vacation week is very similar to Airbnb, but because it's always Monday to Monday, it's very much timeshare style. You could have 3 players in this. Imagine the person that crowdfund the property, they create the NFTs, so they are funding their own project. Then when that project is funded, they can now afford to buy that place where before they didn't have access to buying that place all in cash. The second layer is you're buying, let's say, a week for life. That means that it has a certain amount of years of value. So let's say you buy one, let's say it's 25 years worth of value. You can decide to actually use another layer where you can sell your next year. I'm not going. You could say, I'm not going. Now I can say, I might want to sell that week for that year. And now you can start making your return on investment. But because there's still, let's say, 24 years of value left after you sold it for that 1 year, you can resell it because there's still 24 years worth of stays. And that is what the economy kind of will be. So it's like an Airbnb style environment that helps people crowdfund their own properties.
There has been over the years, there's been pros and cons to a timeshare, I think, and a lot of people are maybe apprehensive around that. How would you answer any concerns that people may have around that?
I think, first of all, it's like you're not buying like the actual ownership in a property. It's like kind of a hybrid investment, right? It's like you can go there yourself for 10 years and get your value out of it that way. Or you could start like when the platform is like sophisticated enough to be able to have enough demand to start selling your weeks in the form of an Airbnb style vacation. You could start doing that every year and then making your return that way. Or you could say, I'm doing that for 5 years and then I sell it to someone else and then I made a profit on my investment over the course of 5 years. Like, there's many ways that this can be utilized where a timeshare, you feel like, okay, like let's say I bought one, how do I sell it? Now I have to actually go to the notary to be able to say, I want to sell this. But like, it's like selling and buying houses in a way, but I'm kind of doing a layer on top of that. I'm just giving a license almost for week 1. So you're getting a license and you can sub-license that license of week 1 to someone else. And I think that is the difference between a traditional timeshare and the type of NFT timeshare that I am creating.
When is the launch of this, or has that happened? And
so the Bansko Vaycay Shares, they went live last week, and we're now building out the web application. So for the people that have bought or reserved the NFTs in the first week when I did the reservation form, I will be transferring their NFTs to their wallets as soon as the web application is ready, so they can kind of see the flow of how it would work. And then the people that bought the NFTs through like the OpenSea where it's live, like the link is in my Twitter bio and also in the Instagram bio. So people can see which ones are still available, because the ones that are like listed for sale, those are the ones that are still like up for purchase. Yeah, so people have already the ability to check in this first year. And yeah, so that's kind of what happened with the first location. It went live last week. And it will be open till the Sunday, the sale will be open till the Sunday of the first year stay. So yeah, that's pretty much the info on the first one.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about that side. So what you're actively doing. Let's talk about the general NFT space and what you think from your own experience moving forward projects need to be doing. Let's focus on the utility NFTs, because this is where your expertise kind of sits. What do you think they need to be doing to survive in this space moving forward? Because it's changing all the time, isn't it?
So I actually partnered with a company out of India called Vendify, and what they do is they creating a platform that does crowdfunding in some regards as well. So they have a very intriguing model that I think will answer your question in some regards. So what they do is they give out backer tokens first. So let's say you can buy a backer token to crowdfund whatever the project might be. And then in that same collection, after the backers came in, you start to sell whatever that service or whatever that NFT might be. And all the backers get royalties from the sales that come afterwards. Very similar to how with music, like you have the royalties built in. And instead of Spotify getting the royalties, it might be the fans that get the royalties now. And not only that, imagine you have 1,000 backers. They're actually going to do the marketing for you. Like they're invested because they know if after those 1,000, there is 100,000 more sold, they might get a percentage of all these things. And now it's like it will move that project forward way quicker. And you have like actual engaged audience. So that's something that I would like to put out there as a way to maybe facilitate something like that, is like upfront. You do a backer token to then be able to do an official launch for everyone else afterwards. And they're like your promoters, your fans, to be able to push it out for you.
On that, I'm going to be devil's advocate here, and it's not me that's saying this, but I think some people might jump to a conclusion of this. When you're saying that there's a group on that token who are, the OGs of that token who have bought into it early, then they financially benefit by getting other people and building more people into that. It sounds like a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme. And what would you say to kind of deflect that criticism of that model?
You should see it as the first backers is a Kickstarter campaign.
Okay.
Like you're coming in and you're saying, I'm trying to fund 20,000 to get this project to fruition. And you guys are the ones that made that happen. So you guys get royalties to be able to now start selling it to the public. I think that's the best way you should look at it. It's like if I had a business and I needed 20,000 to build a technology, then I will crowdfund that maybe, and then I have 500 people that help me get there, and they will get the software for life, as an example. In this case, you're not getting the software for life, but you're getting the same assets that someone else in the future gets. Plus, you're getting a very small percentage of whatever those sales will be in the future. I see how you can think that it's a pyramid scheme in some regards, but because there's no multiple layers of it, it's just the first people that made it happen.
So what else would you advise for anyone as a creator who's going, right, I want to offer utilities. What else can I do to marry this space up, particularly with in real life versus digital utilities?
I think partnerships, like I can take my own project as an example. I have 5 featured artists in my place where I basically got the file of their artwork. I printed it, framed it, and then I put a QR code underneath so that when people stay there, they can scan and buy the art. On top of that, I was talking to NIFTY Sax, what's a big music guy in the NFT space. And I was thinking, well, what if I incorporate that if you're sitting on the balcony looking over the mountains, there's a QR code that you can scan. You can buy like with a song, and now you can listen to the song while you're doing your work. It's like just coming up with things. I think that's the most crucial element.
A lot of people on their roadmaps, a lot of projects on their roadmaps will talk about the metaverse. How important is the metaverse to you, and how important should it be for a creator that's coming up with utilities?
I have 2 things that are going to be the biggest in NFT, in my view. I think that if you talk about a metaverse perspective, NFT gaming is going to be the biggest thing that I can see happening in the digital sense. NFT experiences is going to be the biggest thing in the real world. So imagine you're going on a wine tour, NFT. You're going to a dinner, NFT. All these things will be NFTs. You're going to start seeing these like packages, like do you want to have a romantic dinner for 2 at this restaurant, 7 p.m. and then there's like slots and you can just buy all the reservations for that restaurant live in that format. The wine tour, the same thing. Like I think that Gary Vee has proven that is possible with his conference and with his restaurant. I think he's doing a restaurant as well. So that's exactly what I think the future is going. And then the gaming is like huge because it's such an onboarding mechanism. Like people are already familiar with spending like gaming currencies, right? So now you're kind of making it feel like you're playing a game, but in a way, this game is very real. And I think play to earn is now becoming a real thing as well. So I think the metaverse is going to be a very intriguing place where I think a lot of the education is going to live in a gaming format. And I think that's what it needs to, that's what I think it needs to be, the metaverse. It needs to be a game that isn't a game.
This has been fascinating. And, you know, I think I know the answer to this, but I just wanted to kind of wrap up the conversation with, do you think that thanks to NFTs, the future is bright? You know, we've got an exciting few years ahead of us. And how long do you think it will be until we kind of get mainstream like adoption in the way that we have done with social media and apps?
Yes, I definitely think that this is bigger than the .com because of the technology that is behind it. And I think that when I start seeing mass adoption happening, it is both when the onboarding and the UI UX of the onboarding becomes more genuine and easy. And the second thing is when the DAO gets accepted as a legal framework in all countries, then we have something serious to go off. Because when you have a DAO that can decide and that the software can do the voting and that is legally recognized, a lot of businesses will be able to be incorporated in that particular structure without creating conflict in some regard. So I think those two are my reasons why it's still not adopted.
And for any of our sort of people that are watching this video that are new to this space, can you just give a very quick explanation of DAO, DAO, because they might not know what that is?
What it means is normally you're like a legal entity, and now this DAO can become a legal entity. And what it does, it's like, imagine there was 100 people that bought into a project. And every person now kind of has one vote if like in this particular structure. So for example, if I would say, are we going to make the logo blue or red? And then you say in the bylaws of whatever the company said, it has to be a majority of 51%. So that means 51% of the people have to say yes or no. So when that is the case, it is passed and it is legally recognized. What is a huge thing, because now if you have something like that, you're kind of bypassing the middleman when that happens. And I think that's why that DAO is such a powerful thing that is going to move this space forward, because companies can be set up and there's kind of like no limits, because everyone is like a democracy that is automatically executed. So that's how you could see it.
Yeah, fantastic. Lars, you've been an absolute wealth of knowledge. This has been incredible. Your business sounds amazing. I can't wait to sort of find out more about it. And I'm sure we'll be speaking on these videos a lot more in the future, because I think, you know, everyone that's watching will have found this incredibly valuable today. So thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Well, there we have it. What an amazing discussion with Lars. What an incredible future that NFTs have beyond the world of art. And I think that's really important that we understand and remember that. Now, if you are a creator and kicking off your journey, and maybe you are creating a PFP project, or maybe you're going down the same route as Lars, why not check out this video? It's going to really help get some inspiration from a top NFT project in the space. And I really hope it gets you off to the best start. And until next time, I'll see you then.